Welcome to the Hamilton County Individual Assistance Damage Assessment Just-in-Time Training. This course is designed to be a just-in-time training that can be used to teach the basics of how to conduct individual assistance, or IA damage assessment, and be a review for those who have previously received formalized training. After watching this video, you will be able to identify and apply the 4 degrees of damage to impacted residences and businesses, and correctly assess and record damages on street sheets. After a disaster, we will need to quickly and accurately determine the extent of damages and document certain details about what the damage was. The goal of damage assessment is to determine how bad is it. Damage assessment should be conducted immediately after the life safety issues have been addressed. For flooding, you may need to wait until after the water recedes to begin. Conducting damage assessment captures the needed quantitative data about the type and extent of damage from a disaster. Damage assessment also determines the impact and magnitude from the event. It helps identify the potential unmet needs from the residents and the community, as well as captures the bigger picture of how the event impacted the entire county. Additionally, conducting damage assessment is the only way to determine if we are eligible for supplemental state and federal assistance programs. Individual assistance damage assessment evaluates the damage to private homes and businesses. Primary residences are where a person lives most of the time. Primary residences can be non-traditional structures such as campers and tents if the individuals live in these as their full-time residence. If a person receives mail there, it may be their primary residence. Primary residences are not secondary homes and do not include lake cottages, fishing cabins, or rental properties. Foreclosures, vacant homes, and homes under construction should not be included in this assessment. However, businesses are included in IA damage assessment and should be evaluated using the same criteria as primary residences. You are evaluating the damages to essential living space. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, refers to essential living space as occupied bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, dinette, and living room. Recreation and other common areas, such as laundry rooms, basements, and crawl spaces, regardless of whether they are finished, are not essential living space. However, the basement may count as an essential living space if it is an occupied bedroom or basement apartment. Outbuildings, fences, and unattached garages are also considered non-essential. You will be evaluating damaged homes and businesses based on the 4 degrees of damage, which are affected, minor, major, and destroyed. Affected structures only have minimal or cosmetic damage. There can be no structural damage. When looking at a single-family home, affected damage would include some missing shingles, dents in the siding, or cracked windows. For flooding, in non-essential living spaces, such as the crawl space or basement, regardless of whether it is finished, would be categorized as affected. When looking at mobile homes, any damage from wind or flooding would not affect whether someone could live in it. Examples of damage would include some minor dents to the roof or siding. Remember, no matter how extensive the damage, any damage to porches, unattached garages, or outbuildings will only be categorized as affected. This is an example of an affected single-family home with wind damage. While the tree fell on the home, there is no breach in the roof, so the home would be affected. This home has 5 inches of standing water in the garage. While the garage is attached to the home, there is no structural damage. It is not an essential living space, and no mechanical components were damaged. Therefore, the home would be affected. Structures with minor damage have minimal repairs with no structural damage. Single-family homes can have a large area of missing shingles, broken window frames, substantial missing siding, or damage to the drywall or insulation. If there is any damage to the chimney, the home would be categorized as minor. For flooding, single-family homes can have a water line up to 18 inches in an essential living area. Electrical outlets are approximately 18 inches from the floor. So, if the electrical outlets are not covered, the structure likely has flooding under 18 inches. If there is any damage to mechanical components, such as a water heater or furnace, or if there is damage to the private well or septic system, the home would be classified as minor. Mobile homes would have sustained damage to non-structural components, such as damage to windows, doors, insulation, ductwork, or utility hookup. For flooding damage, the mobile home would have a water line before the floor system. The skirting or HVAC system may be damaged. Like the affected example, this home has a tree on the roof. However, since there is damage to the chimney, the home would be classified as minor. Since this home has 10 inches of standing water on the first floor, which is below the 18-inch threshold, the home would be classified as minor. This home has 8 feet of water in the basement. Since flooding caused damage to the water heater and furnace, the home would be classified as minor. Structures with major damage have a failure or partial failure to structural elements. For a single-family home, this would include roof damage to the rafter or ceiling joists, damage to the framing or sheathing, or foundational damage. For flooding, there would be a water line above 18 inches in an essential living space. Additionally, 40% of the structure needs to be flooded. So, for single-story homes with basements, if there is any water line on the first floor after the basement is completely full, it would be classified as major. Two-story homes also need to have 40% of the structure flooded. So, if a two-story home has a water line above 18 inches, but 40% of the home is not flooded, the home would be classified as minor, not major. If the mobile home is displaced from the foundation, block, or pier, or there is other structural damage, it would be major. Also, if water has come in contact with the flooring, including the bottom board or insulation, the mobile home would have major damage. In this example, flooding caused a partial roof and wall collapse to a local business. Due to structural components being damaged, the structure is classified as major. While water only flooded the basement area in this structure is for apartments, so it would be categorized as an essential living space. Therefore, 4 feet of water in this basement apartment would be classified as major. Each apartment in this complex would be classified as a separate structure with damage. So, if there were 4 basement apartments that were being rented at the time of the flood, and all 4 apartments had 4 feet of water, they would be documented as 4 separate structures with major damage. Destroyed structures are a total loss. Destroyed homes have 2 or more failures or partial failures to major structural components. Mobile homes, where the frame is bent or twisted, would be destroyed. If the majority of the roof covering is missing and the structural ribbing has collapsed, the mobile home would be destroyed. Wind damage caused this home's roof and walls to partially collapse. Since multiple structural components are damaged, this home would be classified as destroyed. In this example, there is damage to the structure's wall and foundation, so it would be destroyed. It is important to accurately determine the height of the water line after a flooding event. You can use other objects to help judge the water level height. Comparing the water line to your own height, to a doorknob, which is often 3.5 feet high, or to electrical outlets, which are often 18 inches from the floor, may help you more accurately estimate the waterline height. You may also have to wait to inspect homes until after the water recedes. Mud and silt is often left behind and can indicate the height of the waterline. There may also be a debris line in the shrubbery. Any structures categorized as major or destroyed should also be documented with at least one photograph. The picture should easily illustrate the reason the structure was assessed as major or destroyed. For flooding damage, you want to clearly show the water line and include a measurable item, such as a door, to illustrate the height of the water line. Taking the photo close up instead of from the street helps to clearly capture the damage. All pictures should also be paired with an address. This can be done by also taking a picture of the address, noting the address for each photo taken, or geotagging your photos. Any assistance provided by the state or federal government does not cover losses already covered by insurance. One of the first questions that FEMA asks is what is the amount of insurance coverage to the impacted area? Therefore, you should always document any information about insurance, including whether they have homeowners or flood insurance, whether they do not have any insurance, or whether the insurance information is unknown. The best way to learn about insurance coverage is to ask the disaster survivor. Sometimes, disaster survivors are not available to answer the insurance question. If the impacted homes are high-end, ranging between $200,000 and over $300,000 homes, you can assume the owners have homeowners insurance. If the homes are less than 30 years old, they most likely have a mortgage and will be required to have a homeowner's insurance. After you view the damage, you want to select the accurate degree of damage based on your knowledge and experience and record all relevant information on damage assessment forms. After you finish assessing the damage, you will summarize your information and turn in your forms to the local jurisdiction. You will document the damage information on street sheets. When completing your street sheet, please fill out all information in the heading, including the number of pages, the county, the city, township, or neighborhood you are assessing, today's date, and your name and phone number. Your contact information is needed so we can reach out if there are any questions about your assessment. Providing as much needed information as possible on your street sheet will reduce the number of follow-up questions. In the location section, include the complete address. Also include apartment numbers, the apartment or condo complex name, the mobile home park name, and, if it's a business, include the name of the business. Next, you will select whether the structure is a single-family home, mobile home, apartment, condo, or business, and whether the residence is owned or rented. For flooding events, you will then write the height of the water level in each area impacted by flooding. For all structures, be sure to note any insurance information. If the individual does not have insurance, please write none. If you do not know any insurance information, write unknown. Next, you will write any applicable information in the comments section. You want to include any information that explains why you assess the structure as either affected, minor, major, or destroyed. You will want to include any damage to the home and whether it was structural damage. Note if mechanical components were damaged, and include any of the expressed unmet needs from the disaster survivor. Lastly, you will mark the degree of damage. Please only mark the appropriate degree of damage. You will leave the next column, the State Use Only section, blank. After your sheet is complete, you will tally the total for each page on the bottom. Looking at this completed street sheet, you will notice that all applicable sections are filled, including all comment sections. You will also see that it does not matter whether you mark your determination with an X, check mark, or number. For locations where you are including multiple structures on the same street with similar damage in one evaluation, be sure to include all addresses and specify the number of homes in each category. Similarly, if you are including multiple apartment units in one row on the street sheet, be sure to specify the unit numbers, the apartment complex name, and the number of structures in each degree of damage. Be sure to count each apartment separately in your tally. Also, note that it is written when the insurance information is unknown and when there is no insurance. Leaving this section blank leads to confusion about whether there is no insurance or whether it is unknown. Please include as much applicable information in the comment section as possible. Here are some additional examples of information to include. If you are using paper forms, please write as clearly as possible. Also, assess damage consistently throughout your assessment and resolve any discrepancies before you submit your street sheets. While assessing damage, you will be interacting with people who have been impacted by the disaster. It is important to be sympathetic, but also efficient. You will likely be assessing many homes, so you should keep conversations short. Do not discuss the damage assessment evaluation of their home or promise or suggest financial assistance that may be available. Even if state or federal assistance does become available, it is not intended to restore damaged property to its pre-disaster condition. Rather, this assistance provides survivors with a safe, sanitary, and functional dwelling from which they can continue to recover. While you should not allude to certain financial assistance that may become available, you can direct residents to current available assistance. A learned best practice from previous events has been to distribute a flyer with information on where to get assistance to impacted residents while you are assessing the damage. Check in with a local jurisdiction to see if a flyer is available. Disaster survivors can be a great resource. Asking questions about their damage and about their insurance helps you gain needed information. Asking questions about whether their neighbors had damage can also save you time. For instance, if a disaster survivor tells you that she had 3 feet of water in her basement and the street has the same topography, you may ask about her neighbors. If she states that her neighbors had about the same amount of damage in their basements, you can proceed to count up the number of homes on the street, listing the range of addresses as a single entry, and mark the number of homes counted as minors. When conducting damage assessment, you will be organized into damage assessment or DA teams. Damage assessors should be organized into teams of at least 2. While one person is talking with disaster survivors, the other assessor will focus on documenting the damage. Also, ensure teams know where they are assessing. Using a grid system to define assessment areas will help make sure teams do not overlap across areas that need to be assessed. This will prevent counting structures twice. Team progress should also be regularly communicated so that teams can be redirected to assist others when available. Before assisting other teams, check in with the local jurisdiction and the DA team you are going to assist. Before you leave to conduct your assessments, map out who will go where and how each team will get there. Also, track and report hours spent conducting damage assessment. All hours will need to be documented. Lastly, bring all needed equipment. When you go out to assess the damage, it is important to remember all needed items. Have street sheets in either paper or an electronic form. Also, bring the degrees of damage illustrations pages and the decision matrix, which were sent in an email to all local jurisdictions. Be sure to have a camera to photograph any major or destroyed properties and any needed backup power sources. A GPS will also be useful to navigate the damaged areas. Make sure you dress appropriately. It is recommended to wear long pants and sturdy closed-toed shoes. Make sure you are taking care of yourself and other assessors. Safety is always the #1 priority. Thank you for watching the Hamilton County IA Damage Assessment Just-in-Time Training. If you have any questions about how to conduct damage assessment, please contact Hamilton County Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency at 513-263-8200 or email damageassessment@hamiltoncountyohioema.org. Thank you.